Okay, I think it's 1 o'clock. Let's start. Good afternoon. Welcome to the April 29th, 2021 meeting of the Communication and Public Education Committee. My name is Ricardo Sanchez. I'm the committee chairperson. This meeting is being conducted consistent with Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N/29/20. People watching the webcast can only observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating must join the WebEx meeting. Instructions are posted on our website. All lines are currently on mute, with the exception of our council. Lines will remain on mute until I direct staff to open them for public comments. I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I have advised staff to allow 2 minutes to each person providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting and ensure the committee can complete its business. I appreciate your understanding and patience. I will now ask staff to provide general instructions to the public.
This is the moderator. For public comment today, we will be utilizing the WebEx Q&A feature. When the chairman calls for public comment, I will open our Q&A panel and display instructions on the screen as I am now. In order to place a request for public comment, you will want to locate that Q&A icon on your screen. Click on that. Then you will type, "I would like to make a comment" into the text box and submit that to all panelists. Comments will be taken in the order they received, so once you've submitted a request for comment, please be patient. We will get to you. Each commenter will have a time limit of 2 minutes. And at the end of the 2 minutes, you will be given a warning, and then your line will be muted, and we will move on to our next commenter. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to agenda item A. I'm sorry.
Hello, this is Eileen. Are you going to call for a quorum or do a roll call to establish the quorum?
That is where I was going. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Thank you. We will now move to agenda item A, which is a call to order and establish a quorum. I call this meeting to order and will take roll to establish a quorum. Members, as I call your name, please remember to unmute your line before speaking. Shirley Kim?
Present.
Thank you. Sung Ho?
I'm here.
Jason Weiss?
I'm here, Ricardo.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a quorum. Let's move to item B. The committee will now hear public comment on matters that are not on the agenda. The committee cannot discuss or take action on any matter raised in this part of the meeting except to place the matter on a future agenda. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? Moderator will now open the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment on items not on today's agenda, please click on that Q&A icon on your screen. Type, "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to all panelists. We will now pause for a brief moment to allow time for submission of those requests. And seeing none, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay, thank you. Any board member comments? Hearing none, thank you. Let's move on to item C. A draft of the minutes is in attachment 1. Is there a motion and second from the committee to approve the minutes? You had a chance to look at them. Shirley, Kim, Sung Ho, or Jason Weiss, you guys want to make a motion? Second it?
This is Jason. I'll motion.
I'll second.
Yeah.
This is Shirley.
Okay, thank you, Shirley. Thank you. We will. Okay. Thank you. We will now move on to item D. Discussion and consideration of
Ricardo?
possible. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is Anne. I apologize for interrupting. I think you should probably go ahead and open up for public comment based on the motion and then go ahead and take a vote following public comment.
Sorry, I skipped over that. Can we have any public comment? Can you please open that up to the commentator?
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment on the meeting minutes, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen, type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field, and submit that to all panelists. And seeing none, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
I will now call to order for members to vote. Shirley Kim,
Yes.
Sung Oh,
I'm sorry I was not here, so I'm going to abstain on this one.
thank you. Jason Weiss,
Yes.
thank you. And I vote yes, so that passes. Thank you. We'll now move on to item D. Discussion and consideration of possible changes to the notice to consumers poster display. Well, background on that, the committee is considering a possible changes to update the notice to consumer poster. A copy of the current poster is an attachment to Business and Professions Code section 4122 and 733 require pharmacists to post a notice to consumers. CCR section 1707.6 specifies the wording for the notice. Any wording changes would require rulemaking to amend section 1707.6 and could also require possible changes to BPC, Business Professions Code sections 4122 and 733. Copies of the regulation and these laws are in attachment 2. At our January 2021 meeting, the committee discussed wording changes focused on preventing medication errors. Members also agreed the poster should not overwhelm consumers with too much information. Based on the discussion, staff agreed to return with possible wording focused on medication errors. Staff has drafted 2 possible wording options. These options are intended to help the committee identify important information and to refine the wording for the notice to consumer poster. Copies of both options are in attachment 2. Option 1 focuses on preventing medication errors. Option 2 includes the wording from option 1 plus information specified in Business and Profession Code section 4122 and 733. Option 1 is more concise, but option 2 would not require statutory changes to Business and Profession Code sections 4122 and 733. Staff requests the committee's discussion and feedback on the draft options or any other preferences for the notice to consumer posters. Are there any board members' questions or comments? But before we go there, I will have Bob Davila join in. He's our public information officer, and I want him available to answer any questions we may have. So any board member questions? Okay, hearing none. Any public comment?
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen, type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field, and submit that to all panelists. Our first comment comes from Stephen Gray. Steve, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you again for the opportunity to comment. On both of these options, I see something that's very, very important that is missing. And in fact, it has been identified as very, very important to consumers through media and through the board surveys in the past. And that is for the right to have the purpose of the medication on the prescription label. Now, I realize that ideally that would be put on the prescription so that the pharmacist would put it on the prescription label. But it is a right that patients need to know about. And I would suggest that something to the effect under Know Your Rights is you have the right to ask for the prescriber to put the purpose of the medication on the prescription so that it will be on the label for you and your caregivers to know what each medication is for. Something as simple as that, I believe, should be included in either option that is adopted by the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve Gray. Any more public comment?
No other requests. I will close the panel.
Okay.
Mr. Chairperson, if I could respond to Mr. Gray's comment.
Yes, please, Bob, go ahead.
This is Bob Davalli, the Public Information Officer. I appreciate the comment. I think the thinking on the part of staff in drafting these options was that we were trying to focus on information that would be most helpful to a consumer at the time he or she is picking up their medication to take home. I think the point that Mr. Gray made is very important, and I think in the interest of limiting the amount of information on the poster, the thought was that we could do other forms of communication to get that message out. For example, as he just alluded, this is something that has gone out in other messages by a lot of other health organizations, and we could do the same with brochures, with something else. I think what we were attempting to do here was just to limit in some way the amount of information on this on the poster, because one of our directions from the committee was to be sure we don't overwhelm consumers with too much. I do agree, however, the item that Mr. Gray mentioned is very important. I think we all do, and we were just looking for ways to sort of focus on what's going to be most helpful to a consumer to know at the time he or she is picking up that medication, take it home. Asking the prescriber to put the purpose of the medication on the label is something that would be helpful in advance of actually picking up the prescription, and therefore perhaps we could develop some communications, some brochures, some flyers, some other information to get that information to consumers before they actually go to the doctor or when they're at the doctor to get their prescription prescribed at that time. But that was the thinking behind that. If the committee would like that information on the included in the notice to consumers, we can certainly do that. That's the purpose of this agenda item, I think, is to get some feedback from the committee and find out what your thoughts are on either of these options, a combination of them, or something else. We just want to be sure we're moving in the right direction so that we're able to effectuate the committee's wish here.
Yeah, what we're trying to do in the beginning was to make the poster so diluted, where it had so much information that it lost the impact that we wanted it to have. So that's why we were trying to bring it down. But let me open it up for our board members also.
Mr. Chairman, this is Song. I do believe I'm more in support of making it as concise as possible. I would support option number 1 over the option number 2. I think regarding Dr. Gray's comment, we could incorporate other ways, such as sending a brochure, as Mr. Davila alluded to. We could just send a FYI or something to that effect to the prescribers. So I think that would be more effective instead of having it on these posters.
Yeah, makes sense. Any more discussion from any other board member?
I echo Sung's thoughts on option number 1, but for option number 2, all the other rights, is there another way that we can convey that information to a customer?
Bob?
We could certainly explore other ways. I mean, I think that one of the things we want to do, and we've spoken about this at previous committee meetings, is to increase the types of publications that we have available for consumers to inform them of things that may not be available on the notice to consumer poster or even on the point to your language poster that are required to be in license in pharmacies, but be information that's of importance to them. And one of these is some of the information that's in option 2. We could certainly include that on other brochures and other flyers, make that information available for download from our website, and make it available to pharmacies to stock on their counters or have available for their consumers. One thing I would remind the committee of is that option 2 has the information that's included in Business and Professions Code sections 4122 and 733. And if we were to not include that information on a new notice to consumers posters, that might require some statutory changes, and I think council or the executive officer is more informed to speak about that. But I just want to let you know those are 2 of the key differences between option 1 and option 2. Option 1 focuses on preventing medication errors. Option 2 includes the information that's in the Business and Professions Code 4122 and 733, as well as what's in option 1. I'm sorry, I may have misspoken. I think option 2 would not require statutory changes. I should defer to the experts and let council or the executive officer speak on that.
Yeah, I was going to say option 2 doesn't, but go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is Ann. So yeah, based on the committee's preference, then we'll report back to the committee and provide additional language. So if the committee's preference appears to be option 1, we're going to need to do a couple of different things. One of which is we can further refine if if there are things that you would like us to change about it. We're going to need to work with council because this form is incorporated by reference into regulation. We're going to have to bring forward to you all regulation language so that you can review that. We're also going to have to look to amend the provisions of the Business and Professions Code, the 2 sections that are referenced in the meeting materials. What may be an interesting approach might be to, instead of eliminating those notice requirements, provide different ways for that important information to still be provided to consumers. If the committee agrees with that approach, perhaps we can come up with some alternative ways or require pharmacies to develop how they're going to meet those obligations, whether they want to put it on a receipt, include information in the bag, whatever the case may be. So we can try to come up with some solutions to amendments to 4122 and 733 at the committee's preference.
Okay.
That sounds good to me here.
Okay. Jason, Shirley, what are your opinion on this? Also, Sung, are you guys in agreement with that? To send it back to staff for some of the language on option 1?
This is Jason. I would agree.
Okay. Shirley?
I'd agree as well. Thank you.
And I don't know if that was Sung-O or Jason who spoke up right now.
Oh,
but
it was me. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. I agree too. I think we have to be clear on it. And when it comes to preventing medication errors, I think we have to make sure that we cross our T's here. So see, there's the consensus here to send it back to staff and legal to work on this and then get us their best step forward on it. I think we'll do that. So we'll move on from here. Any more questions from our panel or our board members? Hearing none, let's move on to item E. Discussion and consideration of self-assessment process. Background. CCR section 1715 requires a pharmacist in charge, PIC, to complete a self-assessment of the pharmacy compliance with pharmacy laws In general, self-assessment must be done before July 1st of every odd number year, within 30 days of a new permit being issued upon appointment of a new PIC or other designated individual, when a facility moves to a new address. At the January 2021 Enforcement Committee meeting, it was noted that self-assessment forms are an important tool to educate licensees about pharmacy laws. Unfortunately, many licensees either fail to perform the self-assessment or they fill out the forms to indicate compliance with pharmacy laws, but then are actually found to be non-compliant during the inspection. The Enforcement Committee discussed the possibility of changing the self-assessment process. The current process requires licensees to complete the download self-assessment forms posted on the board's website. Committee members suggested developing a more interactive online process for self-assessment that would engage the licensees and also provide capability for the board to verify the self-assessment was performed. At the Enforcement Committee's recommendation, the board president referred the matter to the Communication and Public Education Committee. Staff is researching ideas for a possible interactive online process for self-assessment. To begin, staff has reached out to the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy, NABP, and DCA's Solid Unit. NABP is gathering information for board staff. Meanwhile, Solid has sketched out possible options for a self-assessment process. An electronic self-assessment form on the board's website. Licensees would create login and password credentials to access the forms. This system would provide the board with a record of completion by each licensee. An online form hosted by SurveyMonkey. The SurveyMonkey account would be controlled either by the board or the DCA Office of Information Services, OIS. This system also would provide a record of self-assessment completion. There is a possibility that data could be lost if there were any changes to the account. Many details, including technical requirements, staffing, and costs, would require more research. However, staff believes these suggestions provide a starting point for envisioning a more interactive self-assessment process. In discussing this information today, the committee could direct staff to report back with more details on options suggested by Solid and NABP, to investigate other possible types of self-assessment process, or to provide other information for the committee to consider. Any board comments? Any board member comments?
Hi, Ricardo. This is Song.
Yes.
I just want to say that any changes to it, which those two options, electronic and the SurveyMonkey, seem great, but I just want to make sure that those all have a function to save whatever that the pharmacist in charge is working on, just because a lot of times, actually in most cases, from my personal experiences as well as a lot of my colleagues, we don't do this like in one sitting. We just kind of like, because it's such a long assessment and many questions, we kind of go through sections one day and then another section another day. So I think it is imperative that we have a function where we can save whatever we were working on. That's the one thing I wanted to make sure we include in this process.
Okay, good point. Any other board member comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public comments. Moderator, can you open it up for public comments?
Yes, this is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on the screen, type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field, and submit that to all panelists. We have a request from Stephen Gray. Steve, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you again for the opportunity to comment. The self-assessment forms are also supposed to be reviewed and signed by a representative of the owner, which could be an individual, a partnership, or a corporation. And so I would suggest that consideration should be given also that any online process to review and retain the review record also include the legal requirement to have such a representative review and sign a self-assessment document. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please. Bob, is there anything else you would like to add to it?
Yes, Mr. Chairperson. First of all, I'd like to thank Member O and Mr. Gray for their comments. Those were really helpful, especially the suggestion about a save function makes perfect sense. What we can do, if it's agreeable to the committee, is to explore these options some more with DCA. We're in a very preliminary discussion. They were very helpful in just sort of laying out these possibilities for us. It's something that would have to be refined some more. I have not yet heard back from the NABP, but I may have some additional information from them that I could report at the next committee meeting. In the meantime, we could sort of sketch out some more details about this possibility of an electronic self-assessment form on the board's website. One piece of information that I learned after this report was drafted is that another possible wrinkle with having a form hosted by SurveyMonkey is that it could be hard to retain that data if any, like for example, if SurveyMonkey were sold or went out of business, or if anything happened to the company that hosts those accounts. So the indication may be that it's better to have this all internal if possible, but whether or not it would still require some research to figure out how this might be set up, and I'd like to have some time to meet and discuss this in further detail with folks at Solid. But at this point, we can go forward with that. I can report back at the next meeting if we hear any information from NABP, and of course take into consideration the suggestions from Member O and Mr. Gray in our next steps. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And I know we're still refining and we're still getting input. So it's, you know, work in progress here, and we're trying to do the best we can here. I appreciate the staff and Bob Davila, our public information officer. He does a fabulous job in reporting back to us, and you guys do great work there to make our decisions a lot easier. But thank you, and I look forward to getting some more information. Any more comments from our board members? Okay, hearing none, thank you. Let's move on to item F. This is the update on communication and public education activities by staff. This section of the agenda is brief, so I will go through all three of these items first and then open it up to committee and public comments. The script, the latest issue of the script was published in March. The newsletter includes articles on new pharmacy laws and cures, reporting requirements for 2021, as well as links to all disciplinary cases closed by the board in 2020. Staff outreach, staff provided presentations on the pharmacist licensure process to students at UCSF on March 11th, Touro University on March 16th, UCSF on March 18th, and California North State University on March 25th. In addition, staff is set to provide CE training for pharmacists on prescription drug abuse and diversion on May 19th, 2021. News media, staff responded to news media inquiries that are listed in attachment 3. This includes the items in this section. Any board member comments? Hearing none. Commentator, can you open it for any public comment?
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to all panelists. My apologies. And seeing none, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
And before we move on, Bob, is there anything you would like to add to any of this?
No, I think you've covered it very well. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you. Let's move to item G, which is our last item here, future meeting dates. The dates for the upcoming committee meetings in 2021 are Wednesday, July 14th and Wednesday, October 27th. Any board member comments or any comments on that? Hearing none. Any public comments? Commentator, can we open that up to the public?
This is the moderator. We have again opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to all panelists.
Rocky, sorry.
And seeing no requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Okay. If there are no other comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you to everyone for attending and participating in this meeting.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. See you
Thank
guys
you.
in a little bit.
Likewise. Thank you for joining in. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, commentator, we can close up.